Just over a month ago, U.S. President Donald Trump signed off on new legislation aimed at shutting down internet sex trafficking and protecting those most exploited by the underbelly of the sex trade. It was passed with overwhelming support from Republicans and Democrats, but that rare moment of cooperation has serious implications for sex workers themselves, with many saying that will put them in even greater danger by driving them right back to the perils of the street. Here's Kim Brunhuber with our dispatch from Los Angeles.
It was, she says, as though she'd arrived at work one day to find her office had burned down.
So imagine if you just lost your whole source of income like that, you know?
Laura Lamoon is a sex worker. When she started as an 18-year-old, she found clients by walking the streets at night. It was, she says, as dangerous as it sounds.
If somebody throws you in a room with a bunch of guys and you end up, getting gang raped, you have the feeling that death is imminent.
Then, over the last decade, the industry moved from the street to the smartphone.
I found it to be extremely empowering to be able to go from being pimped to being like my own escort online, advertising on Backpage, being able to screen clients. I never had one instance of violence.
Until a new bill changed everything.
Everybody I know right now is just in complete crisis.
This seems like the only thing both Democrats and Republicans can agree on these days.
We are all together, politicians, both Republican and Democrat, signing this.
In April, President Trump signed 2 bills with the aim of targeting sex trafficking online. The laws made websites criminally liable for the sex work resulting from advertisements on their sites. Many sites like Backpage, the most popular escort advertising site, was shut down.
Because of the hundreds of thousands of children who are trafficked, 70% of them are online. And because of what you're doing today, that's already shut down. 87% of that is already shut down. You are saving lives.
Lamoon knows all too well what it means to be trafficked. She says she was forced into sex work as a teen, before internet trafficking even existed. She believes the law that's meant to make the world safer is actually making hers much more dangerous.
I had at least 100 people texting or calling me on a daily basis just based on my Backpage ad alone. And that gave me the security to be able to say, okay, I'm not desperate. I'm not in desperate need of finding clients, so I don't have to do dangerous things like, have condomless sex for more money or take on a client who's more dangerous.
Now, she says, many sex workers are being forced back onto the streets and back into the hands of pimps.
I've actually gotten contacted by a pimp as well with promises of clients.
Many sex workers acknowledge they have few political friends in this battle, so they're pinning their hopes on unlikely allies.
The tech companies and then also people like the ACLU and people who are in favor of free speech and the First Amendment and not having the government, monitor people and stuff. They're definitely our allies.
The new laws have had another unintended consequence. According to Toronto sex worker Anna Sani, not all sites have shuttered. Some servers are owned and operated in countries outside of the U.S., like Canada.
I am noticing that there are more clients coming from the U.S.
But, Sani says, that extra business has been more than offset by the closure of the big U.S. sites, where she says many Canadian sex workers got the majority of their clients.
We have seen an uptick of suicides, people who are already struggling to survive. They literally have no means.
Luckily, I've grown up in the age of the web, so I have never engaged in the street trade.
In Los Angeles, Danny Cruz is among a younger generation of sex workers who are wondering, what now? The world of newspaper personals and of street walking is entirely foreign and terrifying. Those websites offered some security, online bad date lists, where sex workers shared information about whom to avoid. Many of those are now gone too.
You don't know who you're going to get in the car with. There's no way to report violent people in that way. There's no screening practices at all. It's just luck of the draw.
If prostitution is the world's oldest profession, Cruz says, trying to shut it down is law enforcement's oldest pursuit. So he says all he can do now is what sex workers have always done, change and adapt.
It's going to move somewhere. If it goes from the smartphone back to the street, that's where it's going to go.
And he fears not all areas of the street are as well lit as others. Kim Brunhuber, CBC News, Los Angeles.
It wasn't that long ago that Canadian sex workers warned that new legislation meant to keep them safe would in fact do the opposite. The previous Conservative government passed Bill C-36 in 2014. It changed the rules around advertising sex, which advocates call contradictory. It does allow sex workers to promote their own services, but it makes it a crime for publications, including websites, to do so. And sex workers say that that limits their ability to screen clients. Overturning Bill C-36 was a Liberal priority during the 2015 campaign, but it's still on the books.